So guys, thanks so much for your support of Ring. We've been looking in the message boards and getting some messages from you guys about composting. You know, with everything that's been going on, GrowNYC has stopped collecting compost, and so we know that a lot of you are worried about like the compost project that you've been supporting here for years, and we really appreciate that, and so we wanted to answer some questions today about that. So our compost system here, as you may know, there's 3 bins that we operate. This is our where everyone has been putting their new scraps here in this. Whichever one has the plexiglass top, that's where we're collecting. But as you can kind of see, it's super full right now. And so our job here is going to be to free up space in this system, because in addition to that one being full, we've got this one, which is pretty full. And then this one over here that says do not add cooking. You know, this is a bunch of stuff that's kind of curing and getting ready. So guys, I would recommend bringing your own garden gloves. I wouldn't recommend wearing the latex examination gloves that you can kind of get at pharmacies and stuff right now, because those aren't going to really hold up as you're doing this work. You're going to be holding tools and they're going to rip, and they're not really going to, you know, provide you any real protection. This middle bin right now, this is where we have the compost that is most ready to be worked on and turned into finished compost. So for this job, I like to use one of these bigger shovels, okay, and a hand trowel. So the other thing that you're gonna have to do, in addition to opening up this, is you're gonna open up this workspace over here. So this box is where we keep our finished compost. And we keep it covered with a tarp, and we put a rock on top of the tarp so that when it rains, we can keep the water out of here. And as you can see, it's a little bit wet, so we haven't always been, you know, diligent about keeping that tarp on. So it's important that we do that because there are little bugs and microbes and everything in here that live, and they're really good for the garden when we put them on there. So we want to make sure that they stay alive and they don't get too waterlogged in here. Take a look here at this front of this wooden composter. Ooh. Some of this compost is falling out. This gate opens up, okay? And so we can easily access this compost bin by just lifting that up and out of there, okay? So I'm gonna push some of this back here. Ooh, and you see that little worm escaping? Okay, wonderful. So we've got a lot of little critters in here. And I like to try to keep them in the compost system. Some of them are gonna fall through to the bin, but because it's a little bit moist in there, I do wanna keep most of the critters living in here for now, where they're gonna continue to do their work in breaking down the compost. Here we go. As you can see, there's some things in here that we're probably not gonna want. So we'll take a closer look at that when it's in our sifter. Okay. The point of this process here is to get the smallest particles down here into this bin. Because it's the small particles then that we're going to want to put around the garden. This is really nutritious stuff here. This is the reason we compost. This is a stone, so I'm going to take that out. And so, you know, what we've got here, not all of this can be worked on right now. So we've got a peach pit. I'm going to throw that back in there. That can decompose. We've got a seafood shell here with a worm living inside. And, you know, these, I mean, they will break down over a certain amount of time. We prefer not to take seafood shells here. Also, definitely no bones, because they take a really, really long time to break down, and they kind of slow down our process here. We've got some other things in here that are trash, like this produce sticker. And then we also have in here, you'll see eggshells, and those are fine. Those, even though they're a little bit bigger, they're fine to let it get through the sifter. Now I'm being kind of meticulous. You might not want to be this meticulous, but it's partly because I'm showing you know, so it's taking a little bit more time than I normally might spend. Oh, looks like this is part of a bottle cap maybe. You can just take the trowel then and slowly move it across here. If you want to put your little worms and stuff back in the bin, they can go in there. It's not terrible to let the bugs fall through to the bottom of this, because they will then be applied to the garden beds around the garden, and that's fine. The only reason that I'm kind of being a little precious about them now is because I know that the box is a little moist. So when we get that cleared up and it's just at like a normal kind of level of moisture, then I wouldn't be so, you know, worked up about it. There's one big hole in our sifter that at some point here we're probably going to want to repair. But for now I just kind of try to avoid it so that we're not letting the super big particles drop down in there. But, you know, if something falls through, it's not a huge problem. It's a rock. We're getting pretty close here. A lot of our smaller stuff has already been sifted through, and we're left with kind of the bigger stuff. Okay, so we've kind of worked through this compost. Ooh, I should have worn a hair tie. So we've kind of worked through this compost now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back into our compost system to finish cooking. But I don't want to put it back in here because we're just going to keep sifting this in the coming week or two until we take it down to the bottom. So this bin over here, it's a little, you know, it's further along than this first bin. And it's not quite as far along as this middle bin, okay? So since it's still kind of breaking down a little bit more in that middle bin, we're gonna put anything that was too big to fall through the sifter, we're putting back into this bin here, okay? And now look, this is including the new stuff that we just sifted, which is right here on the top. This is our finished compost. I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay. We are gonna cover it with this tarp in case it rains. And put that stone on top. And after that, you can just kind of close up these bins here. Put the door back on. Put away your tools, and then you can leave and lock up the garden. Now when you go home, be sure to wash your gloves, wash your hands, don't touch your face when you're in the garden, all of those things that you would normally be doing. We're so happy to know that in Inwood there's such an interest in composting, and thank you guys so much for your support of the composting project that we do here. With your help, we can keep it going during this, you know, time where service is limited elsewhere. So yeah, thanks for all of your help. And when you're in the garden and elsewhere, just remember to do as you always would, which is keep your social distance and be happy and healthy and safe. Okay, bye guys.